end zone, underthrown, the touchdown. Trey Tucker to the end zone it goes. Caught! Touchdown, Armon Benz.
Bearcat Blitz on the Believe Network. I'm your host, Russ Heltman, joined very shortly by my co-host, Neil Meyer. And we are presented by FanDuel Sportsbook. Great show, hopefully a great show in store for everybody today as we recap a good stretch for the Bearcats basketball team. Their first three-game conference winning streak of the season capped off by a close win. Their first close win of the season as well. We're 0-5 entering Sunday's matchup against Utah, and they got the job done in a tight battle, came back from a short, small deficit in the final minutes to beat the Utes 69-65 and move to 1-5 this season in close contests. We'll discuss all that on today's Bearcat Blitz, plus just the final 5 games. There's an off work week of games for the Bearcats right now. They do not play in the middle of the week, so no preview to do. And what better time with 5 games left to see if there's any chance left that the Bearcats could find their way into the NCAA tournament with what was entering the season a top 20 roster in the entire country. We'll get to all that and more on this episode of Bearcat Blitz, presented by FanDuel Sportsbook, where you can bet on the Big 12 regular season champion this coming March. We are almost there. About 3 weeks left in the regular season for the Big 12. And Arizona has moved off of the prohibited favorite status and into plus money territory. Their back-to-back losses last week after starting, 23-0 or 24-0, have moved them to plus 240 on the FanDuel Sportsbook odds line. And Houston is your odds-on betting favorite to win the conference despite a road loss last night in what was a classic in Ames, Iowa, against the Iowa State Cyclones, who UC beat earlier this year, their best win of the season, and that win got even better after Iowa State beat Houston 70-67 or 70-68, a close back and forth battle, another Big 12 Big Monday. Awesome contest that has Houston, Arizona, Iowa State, and Kansas now your firm 4 contenders for the Big 12 title. Those are your only 4 teams with odds shorter than 15-1 to win the crown. Texas Tech sitting there with an outside chance at 15-1 as well. The only 5 teams with mathematical chances to win the Big 12 with about 3 weeks left and 5 to 6 games overall left on the board for almost all of these teams. Bearcat Blitz, full episode coming up after these messages. Bring in Neil Meyer now from the frontofficenews.com, and I am, of course, Russ Heltman from Cincinnati Bearcats on SI. Neil, the fans got tense. Felt like the Bearcats might blow another one against an inferior team at home like they have multiple times this season, but they put up a 9-0 run in the final minutes. They get 16 points from Day Thomas, 13 from Baba Miller, 7 rebounds, 4 assists, and multiple steals from Baba as well. Mustafa Cham returns from his back and forth battle with his ankle injury to post 15 points and 10 rebounds, a double-double for the Bearcats, who got destroyed on the boards 40-30, but held Utah to just 9 of 27 from deep and 22 of 61 shooting overall. And they did not turn the ball over, and they hit their free throws, Neil, to overcome their own three-point issues on the other end. A slog of a game, a brutal game to watch at times, but the Bearcats are 14-12 nonetheless.
Yeah, Russ, most importantly, a 3-game winning streak in conference play right now is huge for Cincinnati, but the even bigger note to take away is that Cincinnati was finally able to close a game down the stretch. And you have seen it time and time again that they were unable to do that under head coach Wes Miller. And they were finally able to overcome that barrier and do that on Sunday versus Utah with a 9-0 run in the final minute and a half. It was a huge momentum swing for Cincinnati, especially now heading into a week off with Kansas. You mentioned Day Thomas, 16 points. I thought Mustafa Cham played arguably one of his better games of the season, 15 points, 10 rebounds. That was great to see for Cincinnati. I know Wes Miller kind of stated after the game that they were kind of worried about that ankle injury there. Obviously, he retweaked it versus UCF, but now that they said Jalen Haynes is doing a little bit of practicing as well, they're like, please stay away from Mustafa Cham. Do not let him get hurt. So overall, I thought he was a difference maker in this one. But Russ, there's a lot to take away from this game. I thought Keyshawn Tillery played valuable minutes in this game. I thought arguably his best game of the career. So it was good to hear from him for the first time all season, his first press conference as well. So seems like Cincinnati found their momentum when Keyshawn was on the floor on Sunday. So that's a positive to take away. Kirk Carissa missed the game with the flu, it sounds like. So that's a little interesting note while he's dealing with the shoulder injury. But Russ, let's talk about it too. The cool story about Jizzle James and his comeback, and then Wes Miller opened up and said, hey, he practiced and played with the flu essentially. Didn't have quite the game many expected, but Wes Miller said that him and the staff found out that he went through a film session and went through a whole practice just the day before this Utah game with 102-degree fever. So overall, you have to give credit to Jizzle because, I mean, that's not easy to do. And then to go out and play a collegiate basketball game after it, it's pretty remarkable to go out there and play under those circumstances. But overall, a huge win for Cincinnati.
Yeah, could not afford to lose to the worst team in the Big 12. Neil, they've shot the ball a lot better from the free throw line over the last 3 or 4 weeks. 3-point line been up or down, been pretty hit or miss there. And obviously, as you mentioned, Jizzle James fighting through some brutal sickness issues, and a big reason why. I mean, he only took 5 shots in this game. He clearly was not looking
and
to
too,
score
Russ, too.
in part for that reason, I would imagine.
Yeah, and it was worth noting. I think I actually texted JT and Alex Meacham before the game in our group chat. And I said, something looks off. And it actually looked like Jizzle might have had an IV before the game because he had that high wrist tape on his arm. And he just looked sluggish.
Yeah, like if you give blood, like you know what you're saying, like with like the little tape with the gauze thing on it.
Yeah, and it looked like he kind of looked sluggish in pregame warmups, and that's unlike Jizzle. So I mean, overall, 102-degree fever in these circumstances where you're going out and essentially running 3 to 4 miles per game, maybe even more, is not really ideal to fight through and whatnot. So I mean, he gave it his all, and I mean, he played 29 minutes too, which is even more incredible to think about because for us, when you hear flu-like symptoms, the first thing that pops into mind is when Darren Peterson went through a whole warm-up just 2 weeks ago and ended up not playing in Kansas's win versus number 1 ranked Arizona. So, I mean, that's the number 1 best player in the country right now, and he couldn't even play through those symptoms. So to fight through it just kind of shows the competitor that Jizzle is. So even though the numbers don't stay for it, you kind of have to applaud that performance there as well.
2 different sets of priorities there in terms of willingness to get out on the floor through just about anything for your team. Jizzle James, there's never been a question of that, and his commitment to the Cincinnati Bearcats basketball program. He's been around this team for a long time for a reason, and that's one of them right there, his willingness to fight through stuff. And he gave him, I would say, I mean, Neil, you didn't score well, but Jizzle gave him, I would say, about as good a minutes as you could possibly ask for fighting through that kind of sickness. And he only turned it over 1 time out of the 6 total turnovers for the Bearcats. A massive factor in this game. If those turnover numbers reach 10, 11, 12, 13, like we're used to seeing out of Cincinnati, they probably don't win this 4-point contest.
Yeah, especially the way that Utah was rebounding the basketball. Russ, it seemed like every shot, Keanu Dawes and a couple other guys were just crashing the boards. I mean, 40 to 30 in the rebounding margin.
Yeah, I think it was only the 3rd time this season UC's given up 40-plus rebounds. It does not happen very often.
Mm-hmm. Especially when you and I talked about it heading into this matchup that they had to win the rebounding margin if they wanted to win this game because we said if they did that, they would win this game by double digits. They indeed did not do that, and that played the difference maker in this because when you give up 40 boards, especially when you have guys like Baba Miller, Mustafa Cham, Tyler McKinley as well, who go out there and get those big hustle rebounds. Cincinnati just did not do that on Sunday. So to come away with that victory down the stretch was definitely a momentum swing for Cincinnati heading into Kansas. Now that you have a week off, especially.
right? In a week to get healthier a little bit. It sounds like Shanabayev, maybe as we transition to some of the health looks there. Maybe Neil, we get Shanabayev back this week. He was moved off of just the straight out category onto doubtful and then ruled out for Sunday's game. So we'll see what his status looks like on Friday night on that injury report heading into the Kansas contest this weekend. Jalen Haynes, also Neil, confirmed to be out for the whole season. Wes
Mhm.
Miller dove deeper into that. It's what we've been saying the whole time. You and I have been pretty much right on this. There's been never really any thinking that Jalen Haynes was going to come back, especially once we got to the conference slate and he had not been practicing 5-on-5 with the team. There's no point in wasting this young man's final year of eligibility. And just good on Wes Miller and this entire staff. I mean, even amidst all of the stuff going on with their own futures and the haziness around that, Neil, they have always put the student athlete first, put these guys' own futures first ahead of their own, maybe more short-sighted, need to win now kind of feelings and needs around the tenures of the Wes Miller staff and him in particular, but they aren't doing that to Jalen Haynes. They're not forcing him to get back out there fast. They're letting him take his time, and they're ultimately going to just let him take this whole year to fully rehab and then go back after it next year. Hopefully, what we talk about over the next 10 to 15 minutes happens, and the Bearcats can find some miracle path back to the NCAA tournament, and they end up retaining Jalen Haynes for next year in the 6th season of the Wes Miller tenure. But no matter what happens the rest of the way, Neil, all in all, this was just a sign to me that once again, Wes Miller and his staff are doing what's right, what they can control, what's right around their own players.
Yeah, and for most certainly, Russ, this is something you and I have been saying probably since the beginning of November, once the injury news kind of came out. Obviously,
Yeah.
it happened in October, but
Yeah.
once you and I heard the diagnosis, I mean, we were saying back in November that we did not believe that Jalen Haynes would touch the court this year just due to the extent of the injury and the red shirt rules and the NCAA. I mean, everything going on right now, Russ, the NCAA would be crazy and I mean crazy to not grant him a medical red shirt
Right.
next
He hasn't
season
played
or
it all this year. He didn't use
yeah.
his eligibility. I mean, it's a clear
But yeah, but
said
like
and
Wes
done
Miller
case.
mentioned, it will be a situation where they do feel like it might be one of those waiver situations where he will have to get one just due to the age. But there's been crazier things happening in the NCAA right now, so this should be an easy decision for them. But overall, I mean, Russ, the hope is right now Cincinnati can turn this thing up down this back half of the stretch, build some momentum, and then you see Jalen Haynes wearing a Cincinnati jersey next year. That's the hope.
Yeah, you would love to see that. And I mean, who knows? I mean, they've like Michael Rayfelt has been retained through multiple staffs, if correct, right? Neil, I think he was here on the John Brandon staff as well. So
That
maybe a
well,
relation.
he was here under McCronin, then he went to UConn for a year, and then he came back.
Gotcha. So
He's been here the whole Wes Miller tenure, though.
right. So maybe he sticks around, and Jalen Haynes loves what he got to do with Michael Rayfelt, and that's enough to keep him with another staff moving forward. That's all stuff that is way down the line, though, as we take a quick break and get to something that will hopefully keep that from even being a discussion point in the middle of April or in the middle or back end of March, I should say, with Wes Miller and his hot seat projections. Those will go away if the Bearcats can find a way to stack most likely 7, maybe needing 8 more wins the rest of the way to get that at-large NCAA tournament spot. We'll discuss what they have to do down the stretch of these final 5 regular season games and the Big 12 tournament after these messages on Bearcat Blitz, presented by FanDuel Sportsbook, where you can bet on the NBA, getting things back rolling towards the finals in just a few days. Don't worry about the tanking teams. Just don't watch that stuff. Watch all the good matchups at the top, and this playoff stretch is going to be unbelievable, people. It's going to be one of the best playoffs of this entire century. I mean, who knows who's going to win this one? It is completely up in the air with the Oklahoma City Thunder still your odds-on favorites to win the title at plus 130, although they've been really banged up and playing basically 500 basketball for a few weeks now. And FanDuel Sportsbook has a finals sweepstakes going on right now. You can log into your FanDuel Sportsbook account and bet on an NBA Finals futures ticket So pick the Thunder at plus 130. Maybe you like the Nuggets at plus 550. Maybe you like my Detroit Pistons, who I got at 65 to 1 to win the title, now down to 13 to 1 to win the NBA title as the number one seed in the Eastern Conference. Click on that NBA Finals sweepstakes token, and you can get a shot for two to go to the NBA Finals. A trip for two to go to the NBA Finals gets you into that sweepstakes with that entry, and a ticket on one of the teams to win the NBA Finals this coming June. Oklahoma City at the top, and then Denver, San Antonio, Boston, New York, and Detroit. Your top 6 odds on the FanDuel Sportsbook. Head to FanDuel Sportsbook today to bet on the NBA all throughout the back half of the regular season and the playoffs. Bringing you more Bearcat Blitz action after these messages on the Believe Network. Neil Meyer back with me, Russ Heltman, on the Believe Network. You're listening to Bearcat Blitz, presented by FanDuel Sportsbook. Cincinnati taking on the Kansas Jayhawks this Saturday. A game, Neil, that they have to win. This is a must-win game for Cincinnati. They have to basically almost essentially win out the rest of the way as we get into a final look, a final gasp of breath of hopeful air that Wes Miller's team has shot back into the season by winning these very 3 winnable games over the past week plus in the Big 12, according to jtomanalytics.com, which uses a NCAA tournament seeding probabilities metric that bases their kind of projections on 1,000 simulations using composite ratings from Ken Palm, Bart Torvik, and Evan Maya. This is kind of the one-stop shop, best option to look at where your team sits in its chances to make the NCAA tournament. Cincinnati right now, Neil, not included on any brackets on Bracket Matrix. And according to JTOM Analytics, they hold a 1% chance to make the NCAA tournament. 75% of that chance comes from an automatic bid possibility, and the other 25% of that 1% is their chances to ultimately run through the Big 12 tournament and lift that crown as an automatic. 75% of those chances are for the auto bid of the 1%, and the at-large percentage chance is 25% of that 1%. So flip what I just said there. But all in all, Neil, what people got to know is there's basically one little crack of light of hope out there for the Bearcats. And according to JTOM Analytics, they have to get 7 more wins minimum the rest of the season to crack that elusive and final 11th seed, most likely among all the at-larges in the 2026 NCAA tournament field. Neil, it would be stunning if that happens, but you know what? From where we were 3 weeks ago, I didn't even think there'd be a 1% chance sitting next to the Bearcats' name.
Yeah, and I'm right there with you too, Russ. But for me, I do think Cincinnati could maybe get in with 6, and the way I structure that would be obviously 2 of those wins would have to come at Kansas and Texas Tech, and both of those are going to be a extremely difficult challenge, especially playing at Allen Fieldhouse and then playing down in Lubbock where Grant McCasland has those Texas Tech team, which, Russ, I mean, when you look at Texas Tech's resume right now, it is freaking fantastic with wins over Arizona, Houston, and Iowa State all down there. Texas Tech is a gauntlet. So, I mean, overall for them, Cincinnati's going to have to if they could somehow pull off a win at Kansas and at Texas Tech, that kind of boost your numbers a little bit. Then you have Oklahoma State, BYU, and TCU. TCU and Oklahoma State should be kind of toss-up games down the back end of the stretch right now, but BYU's the indicator for me, especially now that they've lost Ricky Saunders for the season with the torn ACL. Obviously, a guy who has been such an impact player of the Big 12 for the last 3 seasons. It's going to be interesting. How does that BYU team respond, right? Obviously, they gutted it out over the weekend, but how do they respond over the next few days with guys like Rob Wright, AJ DeBansta? So it's good. That's going to be a matchup to keep an eye on as well. But I do see this team having to win at least 6 games. They're going to have to make a run in the Big 12 tournament. And Russ, right now at the early brackets of the Big 12 tournament, I'm not sure if you saw this yet or whatnot, but Russ, the top 4 seeds go Houston, Arizona, Iowa State, Kansas, all from the 1 through the 4 seed. And I mean, that is slating up to where we might get a Final Four matchup in the Big 12 championship. So right now, Cincinnati's sitting at the 10 seed. They'll play a matchup with Kansas State in the 3rd game on Tuesday, a Kansas State team who no longer has a head coach and has a lot of turmoil behind it. So overall, Cincinnati, it looks like that would probably be the easiest route for them to make a run, as well as if they can maintain that stand or maybe withstand the 10 or 11 seed and play into West Virginia, play into Iowa State again. But no matter
the
what,
goal has to be to get out of that first day. They are cooked.
Yeah.
If they're in that first day, it's not happening. It's just not happening. They do not have the depth to withstand 4 straight days of conference tournament action and being able to win all of those games. Neil, the path is this. It's winning out the rest of the way. All 5 of these games, they have to win, in my opinion. These are all must-win games. You lose any of them, the season's over, because you're most likely slotted back into the back half of the Big 12 unless you win out here the rest of the way and can get from the 10th seed all the way up to the 8th seed. You're what? A couple games behind TCU right now and UCF. Yeah, you're only a half game back of those 2 teams right now. So it's very possible that they could win out. If they win out, then they will not have to play on the first day, and they will be set up to maybe get 2 days of wins and stack those 7 total that JTOM Analytics says they need to get to the final, to put up the best resume possible. But yeah, I mean, if they're playing in that first day, it's over. I mean, the season's definitely cooked, and it's obviously starts with a win this weekend. Every single game the rest of the way has to be treated by this team like an elimination game, which I'm sure that they are driving that message home this week. They're knowing, hey, we've got a few days off going into the final gauntlet stretch of our season, maybe the final last breath for us to keep the Wes Miller era alive. He's not going to say that, I'm sure, to the kids or to the players or anything like that, but they know that. They have to know that underlying just understanding what has happened with this program over the first half of this decade and how high the expectations were coming into this season. So, I mean, I guess crazier things have happened, Neil. If they get a ton of losses around them, they could get in with 6, but they're not even on the bracket matrix right now. Like, they don't have a very good resume at all. It's just not even close to the resume you need. And when you look at the losses that they have this season, I mean, Neil, it's rough. Like, Eastern Michigan is a brutal loss right now. It is destroying the Bearcats' resume at the moment. I mean, you look at Dayton, they have not done much to help Cincinnati. That's gone from a quad 2 to a quad 3 game. They're 91st in the net right now. The Eastern Michigan loss looks horrendous to a team 227th in the net rankings right now. And they only have the real marquee win against Iowa State. They're 1-9 in quad 1 games and just 4-2 in quad 2 outings. You got that 1 loss in quad 4 as well to basically wipe out the win against Iowa State. The resume is just not even close to strong enough, in my opinion, even with a few more quad 1 games mixed in down the stretch here, if they're able to go 6 out of 7 or stack 5 to 6 more wins over the final 6 guaranteed games that they have available. So it's just, when we look back at what they did in the non-conference, that once again has left them in a brutal spot. And it's why we said that they had to win 14 conference games, most likely, to have a shot at the big dance this season. And they can only win a maximum of 11 going into the conference tournament. So we'll see if they can get it done. Keep stacking wins. That'll be a lot of fun to keep covering a win streak, turn this 3-game win streak into an 8-game win streak, into a 11-game win streak in the Big 12 tournament, become an at-large or become an automatic bid. Don't even have to worry about the bubble. Oh, Bearcats fans can dream, can't they? For Neil Meyer, I'm Russ Seltman. This has been Bearcat Blitz on the Believe Network. We'll be back with a Kansas preview later on this week. Enjoy the heated up weather in the tri-state area, everybody.
And it's a deep shot. He's got Tyler Scott, and he's into open space. First throw of the year for Desmond Ritter. Touchdown, Bearcats. shot towards the end zone. Under the touchdown. Trey Tucker.